let's talk about Daniel and Bianca. So Daniel was out at this dinner with Bianca, and Bianca wanted to know why the hell he was with her all this time. And he's like, "Oh, I just came and got with you so I didn't have to go to a halfway house once I got out of prison." And Bianca was shocked and devastated because here is her worst nightmare potentially coming true. And she asked Daniel, "Are you serious?" And he did this little mysterious wink, and then he turned around and said, "Ha ha ha, come on, man," and just acted like he was joking. But I don't think he was joking. I think he was telling the 100% truth right there in that moment. I feel like at first, he's like, "Let me just tell her the full truth and nothing but the truth." But I think after it came out, he started to walk it back, and he was probably like, "Oh, let me try to save the one little bit of dignity that I have left and try to act like I wasn't using her when I was." And then Bianca said, "Look, I can't do this. You're literally verbally abusive. It's like a roller coaster ride. I never know what I'm going to get with you. It's too much." And Daniel was not denying anything that Bianca was saying. And he's like, "Well, it's not my fault that you made me hate you." He just put the blame 100% on Bianca. And I don't think that's fair because I don't think it's 100% Bianca's fault. Yes, I'm sure that there's things that she did. And yes, I do agree that he probably stayed longer than he should have and probably did grow resentful to the point where there's no coming back from that. But he needs to be honest with her and just admit that he's literally not wanting to be with her because she's getting in the way of him being with his true love, and that is alcohol at the end of the day. And like Bianca is suspecting, I think it's because he no longer needs a reason to use her. He sat there and used Bianca as a stepping stone. He got out of prison. He probably sat there and was saving up some money those months that he wasn't paying his full portion of rent so he could eventually try to go by himself. I'm sure he had this all planned out to eventually happen. And then he sat there and got his car. He got the 12-month lease on this new apartment, which is the apartment of his dreams. He finally has everything he needs, so he doesn't need Bianca anymore. He has the show. He's getting paid from the show. So he decided to finally leave her when she was no use of him anymore. And I feel like he doesn't want her to live with him anymore. She's like, "What am I going to do if I want to bring a guy home?" He's like, "Oh, just let me know and I'll leave." And she's like, "I don't think you're going to be that cool." And I don't think Daniel or Bianca would be that cool. If Daniel was to do that with another woman, or if Bianca was to do that with another man, I feel like Daniel would do everything in his power to make that man as miserable as possible and to scare him off because I don't think he wants Bianca there. He doesn't want Bianca to potentially fall in love with someone else so she can have a reason to be there for the full lease. I think he's ready to get rid of her as quick as possible, and he's going to do everything he can to pretty much push her out of that apartment so he can try to take over the apartment for himself. So Daniel said, "Look, I'll be fine," but Bianca doesn't think he's going to be fine. And she said, "And what are you going to do about rent? Can you even freaking afford it?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry. I'll figure something out. I'll find somebody to move in." And she said, "I just got a feeling that you're just going to sit there and go back to prison. You're going to end up homeless on the streets." And Daniel just laughed, and she said, "Well, I could just easily bring in some alcohol in the apartment and call your PO and you could be arrested." And Daniel said, "Well, you could, but that would be so disingenuous." And he said, "That's why I can't stand you, because you're not honest." And I think that's out of pocket. I would not be lying to try to get Daniel thrown back in jail. But if I was Bianca, I would tell Daniel, "Look, if you get in trouble or if your PO comes running to me, then I'm not going to sit there and cover up for you. I'm going to let her know exactly what you're doing." But here's the thing, like, if Bianca was as annoying and drove Daniel as crazy as he claims, then he would be trying to get out of that apartment as soon as possible. But he's trying to stay there as long as possible because he doesn't want to leave and he can't afford the rent by himself. If I was Bianca, I would be like, look, you can have the apartment to yourself, buddy, so you can stop blaming me for all your problems, because you know he's going to his PO and blaming Bianca for all his drinking like he was doing the last time they fought. He always wants to point the finger at Bianca, and he hasn't taken a single shred of accountability this whole time. So I'm sure he's doing the same thing when he goes and talks to his PO. So I would be curious to see who he actually blames once Bianca's no longer around to blame and point the finger to. And so Bianca said, look, I can't do this. And Daniel said, you're dishonest. You want to threaten me with my PO over some lies. So he got all mad. He walked off. And then he was telling the producers, look, it might be on me because maybe I stretched this relation out longer than it should. Maybe I should have been honest with her and let her know that I was starting to become resentful towards her. But now it's to the point where the relationship is too far gone. And Bianca was telling the cameraman that she didn't know what the future was going to hold. Like, at this point, it sounds like she's still kind of holding on to the idea that her and Daniel might be roommates for the next 12 months. But then once she leaves, things do a complete 180. Daniel wanted to rush and go back to his food. You could tell the producers bought him this big, fat, juicy steak that he loves so much he was eating it with his bare hands. And so he's sitting there digging into his food, and then he went to this confessional. Then he suddenly gets a phone call, and Bianca is going off. She, I guess, went through his laptop because she's not dumb. She knew that there's more to the story than him just acting like, oh, I don't like you. You didn't live up to the expectations, or who you acted like you were going to be when I was in prison, when he really has no room to talk because he hasn't lived up to anything he was trying to sell her either. Like, what have you done, dude? You literally have gotten out of prison. Yeah, you were on a TV show, whoop-de-doo. But besides that, you haven't been able to hold down a job. You haven't been able to pay your portion of bills. You just now got a car, so at least he got a car. I'll give him that. But besides that, I'm sure his credit's screwed. He can't hold out a job. Like, there's no long-term stability that Daniel has been able to show. So really, he hasn't been falling through either. Daniel talks about, like, oh, Bianca hasn't fallen through with any of her passions or dreams, but I haven't seen Daniel do any of that. Yes, he works out and stuff like that, but besides that, unless moving boxes for a living is your passion, I don't think you've been chasing after your passion, buddy. And he ends up getting a call from Bianca, and Bianca went through his laptop, and she found out that he's been talking to women for months, just like I speculated. I had a feeling that a lot of women were just getting in his DMs, making his head big. So he thought, okay, easily I can replace Bianca and have another one here tomorrow. But I don't think it was as easy as he thought it was going to be. So I guess we're just going to skip over the whole part. Like, if you guys have been following me for a minute, you guys saw the body cam footage I shared of their breakup. What happened afterwards, I guess Daniel ends up getting this phone call, and he got all scared because he thought Bianca was going to destroy his belongings. So he had to call the cops to have them pull up and help him. And he said he was in the middle of filming that day. So I thought they were going to film the whole encounter of, like, Daniel going to pick up his belongings and stuff like that. But I guess we're not going to see that part. So, I mean, at least I have the body cam footage, so we got to see exactly what happened afterwards. I thought for sure they were going to say that part for this season finale, but we just learned that Bianca went through his laptop. She wants to move out as soon as possible, and then they just gloss all over that, and the next thing you know, we see that Bianca has moved to Florida, and she's with her friend Celeste that we saw in one of the earlier seasons, and her friend was like, girl, I hate to break it to you, but I told you so, because she tried to warn Bianca and shared all her concerns that ended up coming true. And Bianca is finally seeing the light. She was trying to act like when they were out at dinner that she had a feeling that Daniel loved her, at least for that 5 months they were together. But now Bianca is starting to realize, yeah, I think he used me because I was an easy target. I was a vulnerable, young, single woman that had a nice settlement. I didn't have any kids. I was easy to just pack up and move across the country. So in Daniel's eyes, he was like a prisoner's perfect option. That's everything a prisoner wants. A girl with a settlement, single, no kids. I'm glad she's starting to finally realize that Daniel did not love her, because I do not believe, looking back now, that he loved her one bit, especially when you could just see how little he cared when they broke up. And I was going back on some of my old content, like during their breakup, and I came across this. Bianca accused Daniel of stealing from her after they broke up. She said, "Come on, Daniel, man up. Talk about how you stole my social security and birth certificate." And damn, what was he trying to do with all that? Was he trying to steal her identity? Or was he just trying to hold her back from leaving? Because, I mean, it's hard to do a lot of things, like when it comes to like leases or trying to go get a job, if you don't have a social security or birth certificate. And then she says, "Talk about how you wrote my debit card number down and charged the shit out of it. Talk about how you cheated on me with everyone possible while I paid your restitution." See, that's a prisoner's dream right there. A girl that you can live off, and then she's paying your restitution too. Talk about how you made me go to your cousin's wedding alone while you paid for hookers. Talk about how you emotionally abused me. Talk about that. But that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. I can't believe it was only 5 months that all this happened. It felt like so much more time that they're together. But Daniel didn't even make it 6 months before he went back to jail. Literally, Bianca was telling producers, "I just have a feeling that Daniel's either going to end up back in jail or on the streets strung out." And then fast forward a month later, what do you know? Daniel is back in jail, and we finally learn why. I guess he went to see his PO. He dropped dirty. He no longer had Bianca to blame, so he probably had to blame himself for once, and his PO got really pissed off and ended up sending him to like this 90-day reentry center. And Daniel's like, "Was it worth it?" No. But I think in his eyes he really thought it was worth it, because he wouldn't have been drinking so blatantly and openly on national TV if he didn't feel like it wasn't worth it. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.